Welcome to Practical Psychology Podcast, episode 17. I'm Joseph, one of the co-hosts. Today we are very happy to have psychotherapist qualifying Lyne El Husseini joining us here. Let me introduce Lyne first. Lyne is a registered psychotherapist qualifying based in Toronto, Ontario. Lyne works with individuals, couples dealing with anxiety, depression, isolation, trauma, stress, anger, life transitions, self-esteem, mood disorders, ADHD, anger, grief, relationship difficulties, family counseling, public speaking, and many more. Lyne believes therapy is most effective when it's collaboration. Lyne likes to make the clients feel supported, express themselves genuinely, and also being challenged in a gentle way to see new perspectives and possibilities. Lyne's goal to help the client is to understand the patterns, develop awareness, and reconnect with the sense of agencies and directions here. And Lyne is very skilled with a combination of evidence-based treatment models. Let me list out here. Cognitive Behavior Therapy, CBT. Cognitive Processing Therapy, CPT. Internal Family Systems, IFS. Emotional Focus Therapy, EFT. Narrative Therapy. Dialectical Behavior Therapy, DBT here. Psychoanalytical Therapy. Mindfulness-based strategies. And also Acceptance Commitment Therapy, ACT here. Using a combination of techniques here, Lyne gained insight also from neuroscience and the latest research to understand emotional regulations, attachment, trauma responses in order to maximize helping the client here. A long introduction here, but Lyne, welcome here.
Thank you, Joseph, for the introduction, and thank you for having me today. This episode 17 is very impressive, so I'm honored, honestly, to be a part of this. So thank you, first of all, and I appreciate the time taken of your day. So today's topic is one that I think is very important. Do I find that people talk about it enough? Really, it depends here and there. I try to include it more so than other people that I've spoken to, at least in my therapy. I actually aim to have at least half a session consistently with every single client to discuss what goes on with our bodies on a neuroscience level, because it ties into everything, right? I find that it's hard to separate the mind from the body and just deal with the mind portion and call it a day. So this is why I find that it is important. So I wouldn't say I'm the expert on nervous system or regulation, but I have done, I think, enough research here and there to be able to do some psychoeducation about it, at least. So starting off with, the nervous system, we have two parts. So there is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system. So the sympathetic system is the one that is in charge of fight or flight, and it's the one that we rely on. We have been relying on it since evolution and before, maybe, in terms of survival. So with the sympathetic system, it kind of promotes this sense of urgency, prepares the body for some sort of big act. And with that, the heart palpitations start going up, your blood flow increases, your digestion might slow down because that's not prioritized, and many more. And then with the parasympathetic one, it promotes calmness. And with that, the body conserves energy because it's not really in charge of survival, it's more in charge of safety. And then you would notice, for example, somebody's digestion is normal, their breathing is normal, their heart rate is consistent and operating properly. So the reason why this is important is that sometimes it serves us and sometimes it doesn't, given that one is for survival, one is for safety. we need those systems. We rely on those systems. In evolution, I'm sure everybody kind of knows this. People would, for example, run from a bear. You kind of need that fight or flight to kick in. However, they would use it for like 3 hours, right? They would either get eaten or they would survive. So it was more so meant for us to use it for that purpose of, okay, let's say I'll use it for 2 days. Maybe that's even exaggerated a little bit. My point is, it's not meant for us to be in that mode for example, 8 months, which is some of the cases that we see nowadays with people due to stress, anxiety, really different things that come up. And those reasons are sometimes, very case by case, like work related, marriage related, um, or it can be case by case, like individual level. Each person is going through something. The more I talk to people, the more I notice that these symptoms are there and they've been there, and their bodies are on high alert, almost survival mode for more than it's calm, meaning that their sympathetic nervous system is the one that's almost leading, which is not the balanced state of humans. And this is why it becomes so hard to promote this calmness, because it almost gets to the level of it feeling foreign to the body. Um, instead of, and the body's has this way of adjusting accordingly because it wants to survive. Your fight or flight response almost becomes the autopilot. And because it's so familiar, it becomes rooted in like, oh, this is what I feel familiar, therefore this is what I feel safe, and this is my state. Yet it's unhealthy. So then somebody becomes confused of what can they do, and it goes against what their body's telling them to do. So I find it very interesting, and this is like kind of the overview of why I chose the topic.
Lean here. In our clinic, when we are doing the psychotherapy or on the road doing public speaking, education seminars, one common topic is I cannot switch off this nervous system. It's always on at work, after work to the families, or in school, studying, exams, midterms here. What do they say to help those people,
There's
including
always
ourselves?
Of course, and it's very important. That's a great question. There's always going to be something, right? So when it's like you said, when it's not, for example, work, it's school. When it's not school, it's probably a meeting, or when it's not a meeting, it's like an appointment. There's always going to be something that's probably triggering and something that's happening around you. It's kind of like the kind of normal thing of engaging in society. So um, I would say, some people try to target it case by case instead of understanding the root issue, which is how we react to things. So instead of trying to
Mhm.
control the environment, we can
Mhm.
control our reaction to the environment. Um,
Yeah.
and so that switch being on and off is just somebody being on high alert. And that is a good indication, actually, because the body has a good thing of giving you signals. And so when
Mhm.
somebody is in high alert and they have
Mhm.
been going on and off, and they find that, okay, this is unusual, they're uncomfortable, that is a place to stop and understand that my reaction to things can change because of emotional regulation.
Hey, Lynn, how about this? For a lot of individuals, they don't know what they don't know. They don't
Yeah.
recognize those signals. Can you tell some of the viewer what are those signals that their nervous system is on high alert and not in balance with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems?
So this would be there's similarities and differences in all of these. So just because somebody
Okay.
might have a couple doesn't mean that all of a sudden they're not regulated.
Okay.
But for example, people who don't have an appetite or a proper appetite, and it's not really
Appetite.
because of any medical conditions. They just
Mhm.
notice all of a sudden my appetite looks different. Some people it's sleep, so it affects sleep a lot. They sleep too excessively or too little, and it's unusual. Um, it can be tied to things like, for example, depression or anxiety, but that goes hand in hand with regulation also. So that's another signal. The signal of, for example, being somebody that you loved being social, and all of a sudden now you kind of don't have energy,
It
and you'd
disappeared.
rather, yeah, exactly, you'd rather isolate to conserve it. So that is also one where, okay, something is not very right. Um, Feeling like you get tired very easily, for example, at your work. So that could be something you used to enjoy, and now all of a sudden it just depletes you completely. Um, there's so many others, like hobbies. It can extend to family. Feeling like you're just burnt out normally is a good indication that you're on high alert all the time, you're on overdrive. Um, but again, it would be case by case.
Hey, Lynn, people wear those smart watches to gauge, use phone app to
Yes.
manage the budgets and all that. Are there any apps or tools you assist clients to track all these appetite, sleep, social, and all that?
There is a lot of watches, like you said. I know about Fitbit and another one that's called Whoop, actually. But this one, you purchase it and then you have to buy a subscription separately, which sometimes can be like an added cost for a lot of people. So those two I know are good at tracking activity and energy levels. Whoop actually tracks your sleep as well, tells you how much sleep you need, which is great. Um, but for the sake of this being accessible to everybody, I usually don't really rely on apps or watches. And
Okay.
I usually allow the person to, for example, have a little journal and have these entries in a day where we kind of can see in
Mhm.
1 week how often were you out of balance.
Okay. So journaling for 1 week, so you get that information.
Yes, exactly. And then let's say we meet on that day. If there's a need to journal again, then we would, by the third session, for example, have 2 weeks of entries. Given that somebody is consistent with filling it out, I would even trust somebody, a client, to go off memory. So even if they don't have it written down, which is more helpful, um, it can be a sort of conversation. And I find that way people are more inclined to do it. Um, but yeah, because not everybody has the time every single day to log in and do an entry, so which is understandable.
And Lynn, we live in a very productive oriented world. People feel obsessed about productivity, or maybe their
Mhm.
managers, coworkers constantly remind them of productivity here. How about talk a little bit about the parasympathetic system, about how can people relax?
Yes. Um, it- it's such a good point. Nowadays, it's almost like everybody is chasing not one thing, 10 things. Um, and there's only so many hours in a day. And I actually saw a post that said, why can't we just do our hobbies for the sake of doing them? Because now a lot of people, which is so admirable, they take their hobbies and then they try to make it profitable, which is so amazing. Um, Now the everything is good in moderation. So you see how like this becomes a thing where instead of doing it for the sake of enjoying it, now I'm doing it for the sake of adding it to
Yes.
my list of other 10 things I have to do. So it really is, and it comes down to being able to slow down, understanding your capacity, understanding that within not even 24 hours, because I don't think anybody is alert for 24 hours, with less than that, understand your capacity. What is it that can be done and achieved, and what can't? What can be prioritized and what shouldn't be prioritized? Um, with that, within one day, within a week, even within a month, I would say, based off of like different research and stuff, spending quality time with people that uplift you, a social circle or anything like that, is proven to release like certain neurotransmitters and the dopamine and all of that to help regulate. Um, Given that these interactions are positive and they
Mhm.
don't drain you, something else could be, and I know it comes back to like eating, but it is important because
Yes,
there's
yeah.
that gut when your gut is where like everything kind of gets broken down and then all the energy gets, distributed and all of that. Not necessarily all from the gut, but a big portion
Mhm.
of it. So eating well, even some people they could have alarms, to not skip meals because that messes with your blood pressure and everything like that can have also effect on emotional regulation. Slowing down can be, for example, somebody taking 5 minutes in their day to do some breathing, maybe even sit in a calm area with no talking, nothing, just with themselves. And just noticing, what thoughts are they having? They don't necessarily have to identify with the thought. What I like to do is think of my thoughts as clouds.
Mhm, mhm,
So I think about a thought and like I just send it away and then kind of watch it leave in those instances so that the overthinking doesn't kick in. But it's a good way to kind of be with yourself because people don't really have that every single day. Another way to emotionally regulate could be ones that are tools that can be used more so on a quicker basis. So if somebody needs a reset right away, they could wash their face, for example, with cold water. They could, and I love this exercise. So there's interacting with the vagus nerve that's in charge of these neurons. So what I like to do is actually, um, I pull my ears down for
mhm.
about 10 seconds. Okay, and then you do it so you go this way. Yep. So pull them parallel to your shoulders. And
Okay.
then that a little bit. And then you can pull them up now. And that's a quick reset for emotional regulation. Can you let go?
Mm,
And then what it does is it kind of you feel a little bit different right away because of that vagus nerve. Um, Other ways are just quick box breathing. So like you breathe in for four
mm.
seconds, you hold for 4 seconds, and then you release for four
Can you
seconds.
demonstrate the box breathing?
Yeah, of
Because a
course,
lot of
of course.
viewers are not familiar here.
Yes, so you just breathe in for four, so you hold for four. And when you exhale, you also hold that for 4 seconds. Some people find that doing it for a minute or even like 6 cycles of that could be helpful at resetting. So there's the quicker ones, and then there's the ones you kind of incorporate and build over time that can stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay. So in this, you're mentioning there's so many different strategies to
Mhm.
practice that mindfulness,
Yes.
emotional regulations, and practice to be slow in a therapist.
Yep. Yep.
And so in the counseling session here, has there been anybody like coming to the session here? They are expecting productivity in the counseling session. Hey, Lim, we need to do more, do faster, do ABC here, DEFG here, not practicing slower here.
Mhm. It is tailored based off every single person. And given that, I kind of reassure them that just because we're meeting today and things are a little bit slower today, it doesn't have to mean that it's going to be slow all the time. So I kind of explain that if that's if they're feeling like they need that sense of urgency, that could be them needing it actually instead of avoiding it. And so, yeah, and then that's when I would say just let's give it a try and see how we feel. I noticed that when we do it in session together, they're more prone to know what to expect. And so maybe they could incorporate it once or twice a week, given that they already kind of know how it goes. So I would encourage it actually when that's the case. And I think it kind of picks up the pace. So it's not like we're going to do, for example, 4 sessions of just slow breathing together. Um, it's the psychoeducation portion of it, plus applying it to how it looks like in the client's life so that they're more aware. And then the third portion would be any type of mindfulness or technique or exercise in a session. If needed, if the client is excited to do it again, we can. But at least I know that they are aware of it now. And then the second session, we can go back to the ABCs and everything.
Oh, yeah. So then tell us a little bit more about how do you combine or pick and choose different recipe of the evidence-based models here because you have a big list.
That's a great question. Um, I kind of like to get a sense of the other person's style. And this is why having, or being in the psychotherapy field, I made it my mission to not be closed off or not to just be educated on one thing and not the other, is because I cannot predict the type of client that I will get. So given that I wanted to know everything about everything. And so I know it's impossible, but knowing enough about each one helps me tailor it to each person. So, for example, let's say somebody has problems with emotional distress. They're not able to regulate their distress and they're not able to tolerate it. Um, let's say somebody needs help with interpersonal relationships, then I would kind of go for DBT.
Mm.
Um, let's say somebody was like noticing immediate relation between their cognitive, so it's like their behaviors and thoughts, and then their emotions. That would be CBT. What else do we have here? Acceptance therapy can be incorporated in each of those. I don't find that I kind of use it as like my main. Acceptance therapy is more so like I reach for it when I need to, and it has a lot of metaphors. So I love incorporating metaphors here and there to make it a little bit clearer for the client. So that would be that. The one I actually love so much is internal family systems. I find
Mm.
that after enough information gathering and applications of CBT, I reach for it. And it really is like kind of the missing piece in a lot of people because psychoanalytic explores the childhood. And then the CBT portion helps me understand where they're coming from. But ultimately, that IFS portion, in my opinion, ties it all together. And that one, I can apply it with every single person because every single person has some parts in them that are sometimes clashing and sometimes working in harmony. So it's always worth a shot to work with IFS. And then am I missing one? It's probably CBT, which you did such a great job at educating us all about. That one is the one I'm using for trauma. So you don't find that I go for it unless somebody expresses that they have experienced some type of trauma. So this is how I usually aim to tailor it, with a client.
And then tell us more about the internal family system IFS here. What are some of the principles and tools that you use for clients?
So with IFS, first point that I do with them is I actually make them watch a 3-minute video. Um, and because it can be a little lengthy to talk about something, and when the other person has never heard of it before. So I often find that a little short video is interactive and it kind of prepares them for what I'm about to say. Um, and then I also explain it myself afterwards so that it could really stick with the client's mind. The way I like to describe it is let's imagine there's a company and then there's a CEO in the company, and that is yourself. And there's different departments in the company, which is the parts of you. And then what we're doing now that we have gathered enough information is we're doing a performance review. So we are going to head to different departments and we're going to listen what they have to say to us after asking them certain questions. And based off of that, we will make a judgment that comes from a place of compassion about what can we do to make these departments communicate better so we can have a better an overall, sorry, better performance, better company, and that would be, a better self. So with that, some of the departments could be the manager department, the other one is the firefighters, and then the third one is the exiles. So the managers is normally what kick in your system to do some executive decisions on your behalf, subconsciously, of course, in terms of managing, controlling, criticizing even sometimes. Firefighters are the department that's in charge of, in the name of protection, of course,
Yeah.
jumping in and doing whatever it takes to make you feel good in the moment. Um, and that could mean sometimes avoidance, that could mean sometimes overeating, that could mean sometimes just doing anything really that is more like urgent, right? To feel good. The exiles are the parts that need to be protected, and then they're the ones that are basically shunned away. And those sometimes are self-blame, shame. We have ones that are guilt, um, low self-confidence, anything like that. That is almost like the result, and then it's not really, it's more suppressed, but maybe it shouldn't be suppressed. And IFS kind of makes us gain that piece of information.
So the parts being suppressed is called exile.
Yes. The parts that need to be maybe brought to the surface to a certain extent
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so that we can understand why they're even there and what
Yeah.
role are they playing. And if they had a voice, what would they say? And what would that change? So I use worksheets when I do IFS
Mhm.
because I find that it really allows the client to kind of expect what the next question is instead of it catching them off guard. Um, Sometimes clients are comfortable doing it in session, where it's the first time they see it and we can walk through it together. Other times, the client would prefer to take it home so that they have a lot more time to think about it. And then, even if it's filled out, um, they bring it to session and we can sort of expand here and there on every answer that they have written.
And Lynn, what are some of your favorite worksheets here? If you have, can you share some of these right now?
Yeah, I do have actually. Um,
Okay. If
Let
you
me,
want to share your screen here,
yes,
just the worksheet, we would love to see. Because a
I
lot of the
will.
clients are wondering, what are the things that we do inside the therapy room?
Many things, many lovely things that are happening. I'm going to share my screen and um, let me know if you can see it.
I see it very clearly, exploring your inner parts and internal family systems worksheet.
Yes, I will just zoom in a little bit. You can see here it's 12 pages. It just gives the client the opportunity to explore as many parts as possible, but obviously it doesn't have to be filled out. Um, it doesn't have to be filled out all of it. So here's what to know. So in case they do take it away with them to go and do it at home, they could refer to this. And the primary parts here, the exiles, managers, and the firefighters. We also have what the self is. Here are 8 qualities that the self should ideally have, which is curiosity,
Yeah.
compassion, calmness, courage, clarity, confidence, creativity, and connection. And we find that when all of these are integrated and found within a person, that it could really be create harmony within someone. You can see here a greater self sense of awareness and well-being. Um, Here's another indicator of how to know if inner conflict exists even. People sometimes have internalized aggression, shame, regression, perfectionism, contradictory thoughts and feelings, inner critic, procrastination is highlighted in green for some reason,
Yeah.
and then feeling stuck or indecisive. Um, one of these doesn't necessarily mean that there's a conflict, a big conflict, to the
Mm,
degree of, oh, somebody needs counseling now. But when they notice it themselves, they will know. Um,
mhm.
and so, yeah, it is very personal. Um, the one, oh, sorry, just for the sake of looking at the actual worksheet, here's like what to do. So people will identify a
Yeah.
specific part first, and then there's many, many questions about it, not in a boring way. And you can see here, what's the name? What would you label it? How would you describe this role? How does it typically show up? What triggers it? How does it interact with other parts? What positive qualities does it have? We're really trying to understand what the purpose of it is. How does it believe it's protecting you? And many more questions here before we move on to the second part, which would be here, for
Mm,
example.
yeah.
And the reason why I've noticed that doing, whether that's CBT first or a proper exploration of the person's history and any symptoms that they're feeling, is because once that is externalized and it's vocalized in session, it becomes much easier for them to fill this out. Because I want to get the client to a point where they understand what the issue even is. So it's not like, oh, hello, it's nice to meet you. There's this worksheet that we can do together. And that is how I will get to know you. It is
There's
more
a
of
lot of groundwork before doing this.
exactly. And that's the,
Micro skills development.
yes, and that's the approach I take, is because we want to understand why we're even using it and what are we targeting. Um, so people tend to, well, the clients that I use this with tend to already know what their manager part is almost before they write this because
Mm,
we have talked about it enough. And we
yeah.
understand the the cause of the issue and also what is fueling it. And we come
Oh,
here and it gives
yeah.
us a better opportunity to be vulnerable, um,
Mm,
and knowledgeable and aware. Out of these ones, however, and I've had this question before, and I was like, what do you feel is I wouldn't say the worst, really, because it just depends. But maybe I'll use the word the worst. I would say the worst out of these is
there
shame.
can be many conflicts here.
Definitely. Uh, the one I feel almost always exists, and I don't kind of use this as like my bias. I really wait for the other person to express fully everything. Normally, the one that does show up though is shame, and it can be very, very hidden because shame masks itself very well. Um, Out of all of these kind of have cues for them, so you can kind of spot it. You don't have to have three conversations before spotting it. But shame is the one that's almost always hidden. You can see here it distorts your entire identity. It makes you believe you are damaged, no good, and unworthy of love and goodness. Um, so if you were ignored, neglected, or hurt as a child, you will carry shame as an adult. And it really expresses itself however it wants. Um, which is like a whole other topic that we can talk about. If that is of interest, because it is very important, and
Mm,
oftentimes not talked about enough, and
mm,
people can't really seem to see why they're acting a certain way, where it comes from. So they will see the byproduct of it, and then what tends to happen is they are treating the byproduct of shame, but never shame itself.
it's sort of like the emotions iceberg. They only treat the above invisible, but the invisible shame.
Exactly, exactly. Shame is exactly that. It because it's masking itself in such a impressive way almost, it becomes harder to spot. And when it's harder to spot, it's
Mhm.
it's just almost like creating, but you don't know where the source is from. So then
Oh
you're left
yeah.
with treating the little creations it's made. Not always, but oftentimes.
Oh yeah, Lynn. These are wonderful education for the viewers, clients, and fellow clinicians here.
Thank you. Um, yeah.
So, Lynn, if any of the viewers, other psychotherapists want to contact you for more information, do you have any links, phone number, website to put it in the comments here?
Yes, of course. I will link my email, a phone number. I'll also link my LinkedIn. And all in the comments below. If anybody wants to reach me or have any questions or wondering about anything, I will be available.
So, Lynn here, today we don't have enough time here, but we would love to invite you again to talk about the specific points of
Yes.
all these modalities and more about your unique therapy.
Thank you. It would be my pleasure. So I would be honored to do so at any time. Feel free to reach out. And I would love to expand on all of these, especially, the last topic, which we said is very important.
Yes.
But yeah, time ran out very quickly.
Let's schedule again. And today, really happy to have you, Lynn, here. Thank you,
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Lynn.